Hello and welcome to English for Experience. I'm ETETutor, and in this video we're talking about how to select and learn quotations. This is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, that's where I discuss how to pick the quotes you're going to learn. So if you haven't already got a set of quotes, you really need that video first and you need that set. And here what we're going to do is talk about different techniques that you can use to initially learn those quotations, and then a kind of wacky series of ways you can integrate this learning into day-to-day life. Right, this is probably the best tip I can give you. Try to initially learn those quotations in pairs, so you'll get a load of sets of quotations. This, although it might seem counterintuitive, I've got to learn 2 things at once, not 1, it really isn't. It helps you learn by association. So as long as you are picking 2 quotations that have got something in common, they're linked, they could be linked in several ways. Knowing one will help you know the other, and vice versa. So we've got an animal farm example here. I'm going to show you this one in a little bit of detail, mainly because the person who inspired these videos asked on an animal farm video, so that's why I've gone for this one. But if you're not interested in this bit, if you skip forward about 30 seconds, you'll be back on track for the more general tips. I think it'll be helpful to look at this regardless of what text you're looking at, but I know people are short of time sometimes. So you can see, using this colour coding, straight away there's some stuff that could be linked here. So in the first quotation we can see it's from chapter 10, second quotation chapter 10, straight away. So they're happening at the same point in the novel, and then you can see that I've picked out the main thing that I think this quotation is about, and I've popped that in the blue. So if you haven't seen part 1 of the video, it'd be good to flick back to that, because this relates to why you've chosen the quotes you have. If I've chosen these 2, these are the jobs that I want to do with them. I want to show with the first one that it's to do with the final reduction of the 7 commandments, and with the second one I want to really hit home with the fact that this is an allegorical novella. And then you can see that I've linked in the themes, and we can see we've got some themes in common there, or very closely linked themes. So hopefully that helps a little bit. If you are doing Animal Farm, I've got lots of other videos about that one, so check those out. But for everybody now, I want to get back together and think about, right, I've got the quotes, I've got them in pairs, now how on earth am I supposed to remember it all? You've got my sympathy, believe me. There are a few different things that you can try. They don't all work for everybody, but it's worth experimenting. And what you're learning here in terms of these kind of memory techniques, revision techniques, you could apply to other subjects as well. So, keep positive. Right, obviously copying them out, doing them over and over again can be really helpful for some people. You can see in the image that I've used colour coding, and if you saw the previous screen you can see we've got colour coding there. I also like a little doodle every now and again. I really feel that that helps me to remember key information, so you can see a bit of that going on in this example. It doesn't work for everyone, but if you haven't tried it, why not give it a go? You haven't got anything to lose. The other thing that I'd say is getting some nice hard copies on cue cards, slips of paper, and then you can use this when you're planning your exam responses. So if you've got these, preferably in your little pairs, you can get any question in front of you and grab the quotes that you'd want to use. Literally move real things about with your hands so you can plan how you would structure your argument. I think this is a really useful technique that I use quite often with students. When you're creating these cue cards, these little notes, try putting the quote on one side and then some general notes on the other. And then if you are lucky and you have somebody who's willing to help you, then make the most of it. If they've got this information on the back, they can say to you, I don't know, something like, okay, can you tell me a quote from Animal Farm that you could use in an exam question to do with greed? They've got the information to go on there, so hopefully you can give them back the quote they're looking at. Right, another one is making those digital copies of quotations. I like to save individual quotes as individual images and then scroll through them, and then when I'm sort of getting it a bit more, I can pop those into slideshows and just watch them play through. Finally, voice notes. If you're here listening on YouTube, then chances are you do quite like a bit more of an interactive way of learning than just sitting on your own with a textbook. So if you record the quotes on your phone or your PC, whatever, and then you can listen to them on a regular basis, that really helps. Okay, so you may be thinking, okay, that's quite a lot to take on, but I have sort of thought about these things before. Then let's have a little bit of a note before we go further. The other thing you should be doing is revising your quotes when you come into contact with them. So if you do a lot of YouTube revision, you can do this really easily. So whenever there's a quotation, you can check your knowledge. So if I'm doing a 60-second Animal Farm video or one of my quotations for a Christmas Carol videos, there's 24 of those, so there's plenty of quotes there. As soon as I say the quote, hit pause and just see if you can guess what I'm going to say, or whoever you're watching on YouTube, or when your teacher says a quote in class, just be active, be on it and think, right, what would I say about this quote? And then see if they say the same. Okay, right, so all of this you've probably thought about before. You know, I can't reinvent the wheel. You've got to learn these quotes, so you're going to have to copy them out and commit them to memory. But once you've started to get a decent grasp of them, I think the best way to go is to try and integrate this revision into your day-to-day life. Now, this is where it all gets a little bit more English through experience. It all gets a little bit more crazy, because I'm going to give you loads of different ways of trying to make English part of your day-to-day life from now until the exam. Don't worry, it doesn't last forever. This, in the grand scheme of life, this run up to exams is not a very long time, but I get the fact that when you first hear this, you might be thinking, no, it doesn't sound like an easy challenge, but it's easier than constantly having to sit down for an hour and go through these quotes, in my opinion. So we want to make it part of everyday life. We want to make it when you do tasks, you're revising for a particular exam task. If you're doing revision for a particular text at a particular time, regular intervals, your brain's got more to go on when it's trying to recall that information. Yeah? Now, that's not exactly a scientific explanation for you, but if you wanted to research into it, you would find that what I'm saying here has been proven. You've got more to go on if you have these associations, a little bit like revising the quotes in pairs. So you can do this by scribbling down your quotes, saying quotes out loud, saying quotes in your head, making a mental note of the scenarios when the quotes could be used. So this is the bit where it gets a bit strange. You can see these scenarios or opportunities for revision all around you. So before you eat breakfast, you could always revise A Christmas Carol. So that means scribble down 2 quotes, say. When you go to the toilet, you could revise Animal Farm. Don't perhaps say the quotes out loud while you're in a public place. People might think you're very odd. While you clean your teeth, you could revise Shakespeare. And that would be a case of doing the mental notes rather than saying it out loud. Journey to school, you could always just do a couple of poetry quotes. If you're waiting for a console to update, you could pick a random text and challenge yourself. See how many quotes you can remember in that time. From my experience of my other half always switching on his Xbox and having massive updates to do, that would be a real challenge. So don't worry if you've got a long wait and you run out of steam. Another one, if you're in a waiting room, doctors, any kind of appointment at school, going to the dentist, just pick a random text and see if you can remember a few quotes from there. So, final one is if you're in a queue, which happens to us all. So basically all I'm saying is you're going to find it really hard to sit for hours and just keep going over these quotes. So if you can do them little and often like this, it will help you to remember them. Might sound weird, but it does work. So, final top tip is you've got to check yourself if this is working. Nobody else can do that bit for you. And you can check by completing practice exam questions. And then you'll see if you can remember them quotes or whether you have to keep going and getting your cue cards and having a look. So, there's a few related revision videos. So, as I've mentioned, I've done quite a lot in terms of A Christmas Carol and Animal Farm so far. So, all of those videos will contain quotations and analysis of those quotes. In the Examiner's Tales video, Makeup, Xbox and Quotes, you can hear me talk more about different techniques for integrating revision into day-to-day life. So, on that note, with quite a lot to think about, and the prospect of constantly thinking about these quotes throughout the next few months, you'll be left with a little bit of peace and quiet. So thanks as always for watching. Hopefully this has helped. Please hit like if it has, and if you think you've got a friend who might benefit, just let them know about the channel. Alright then, bye for now.